Declining clearance rates are attributable to the fact that standards for arrest have risen since the 1960s. It's harder for police to be able to arrest people without successful challenge. A growing number of murders being perpetrated by individuals unknown to the victim, and a mistrust of law enforcement in some communities. The defund movement was broader than just defund. The purpose of defund rhetoric was to delegitimize police, to demonize them, to enhance community distrust of police. This bill, in addition to being transparent political cover for the disastrous politics of the Democratic Party, which Mr. Johnson laid out in devastating detail earlier in this markup. And that's particularly a problem for, with all due respect, the sponsor of the bill, given what she's trying to do politically.
Would the gentleman yield?
Not at this time, but in addition to the political cover, transparent motivation of the bill, it is a classic example of Washington liberal chasing your tail. So here's how it goes. Point one in time. Democrats in cities across the country demonize their police and drastically cut funding to their budgets. Point two in time. Murders go through the roof. Point three in time. Democrats propose funding from Washington to municipalities in order to clear more unsolved homicides. I don't know if anybody gets this but me, but there's a supply side and a demand side to this issue. There are two ways to address the inventory of uncleared homicides. You can clear more, or you can have fewer. The money that Democrats propose to send back to the cities only works on the demand side, if you will. It only sends back money after the problem has worsened because the municipal Democrats decided to cut their police. You've created a catastrophe. If there was any silver lining, and that's a stretch, to that political disaster.
Would the gentleman yield?
Not at this time. I'm in the middle of helping. Listen carefully.
I couldn't tell.
Listen carefully, because you're not getting it.
Oh, no, I get it. I think you're not getting it.
No, I get it entirely. You're trying to run from it now.
I'll tell you about solving homicides.
From it now. You're trying to run from it now because the chickens are coming home to roost politically. The only conceivable silver lining to cutting the budgets that these municipal Democrats did, resulting in the massive spike in homicides, was the saved money that you could use somewhere else. You want to take that money to Washington, send it back to them so that they can clear the homicide. They can solve the unsolved homicides. In cities that you've intensified the distrust of police, where they need victims and witnesses to cooperate. What a beautiful epitome of Washington, D.C. and the Democratic Party leadership. Here's the answer to the gentlelady from Texas who says, what do you say to the victim of these crimes, the families of the victims? The persons who need to give the answer to those persons, to those victims, and to those families are the people in these cities whom you aided and abetted, as indicated by incident after incident, comment after comment related by Mr. Johnson earlier in this hearing. Those people need to give the answers to the victims of the homicides. It is little consequence to them that the homicide be cleared, that the homicide be solved. I'm sure they'd love to see that, but it would be much better if you hadn't caused them to be killed in the first place. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. Without objection, I wish to enter into the record a letter from the National Association of Police Organizations and a letter from the National